Letters to Priests, written by Joanne Mckenna, narrated by Mark Lobitz. I dedicate this book to all who respond to God's call to love and serve. Deuteronomy 10:12. May our prayers lift the hearts of those most in need of hope. Acknowledgements. I am indebted to my family and friends for their unconditional love and support, especially my husband James, who is a model of love and service, generously sharing his time and talent with unlimited patience. As well, my daughter and grandchildren, who teach me about love every day. I have been truly blessed over many years to know countless priests who exemplify the mandate to love and serve. They cannot possibly know the long-lasting impact they had on so many with quiet, unassuming grace. My gratitude for those who provided spiritual direction over the years is immeasurable. It was a privilege and an honor to call you friends. Other contributions to this endeavor include the many groups that have supported me in the spiritual life. The teachers at the Meditation Center, along with many parish and monastic communities, provided limitless refuge and silence for which I will be forever grateful. To Paula Hillman and Elizabeth Ferry for their help with research and editing. I would also like to acknowledge Quantum Discovery, especially Kay Porter and Alex Morgan, for pursuing this project on my behalf. Give thanks to God most of all, whose love endures, whose faithfulness lasts through every age. Psalm 100, 4-5. Preface. His Holiness Pope Benedict XVI established a special year for priests in 2009. The hope is to encourage priests as they strive for spiritual perfection because, of course, on this, the effectiveness of their ministry depends. 10 years later, on the 160th anniversary of John Vianney, patron saint of priests, His Holiness Pope Francis addressed a letter to priests saying in part, I write to all my brother priests who have quietly left all behind, in order to immerse yourselves like the Cure of Ars, in the trenches bearing the burden of the day, confronting an endless variety of situations in your effort to care for and accompany God's people. Despite the hardships of the journey, you are writing the finest pages of the priestly life. Bishop Sheen identified Mary, Magdalene, and John as the three types of souls forever to be found beneath the cross of Christ: innocence, penitence, and priesthood. The book is organized around the intermingling of these in the soul of the priest who at the foot of the cross is called to be as pure and as holy as an angel. He is then clothed with the robe of innocence on ordination. He asserts with Peter, I will never deny you. Then, sifted like wheat by Satan, to come back to support the brethren. Luke 22, 31, 32. Discovering, I am alive, or rather not I, it is Christ that lives in me. Galatians 2:20. True, progression in the spiritual life is by no means linear and has no reliable signposts. Its layers are interminable. Innocence, penitence, and priesthood is borrowed for the sake of discussion, and gives deference to stages, defined by many wiser men and women of the Church. Prologue. If there exists some wonderment about how a lay woman became so interested in a mission of prayer for priests, I would say, understandable. That is, I would, if it did not begin with a saint of woman placed in my life at a very early age. Dolores Suriani, a mother of 2 young children at the time, was the parish secretary. She was the kind of secretary who peppered her all-important duties amidst prayer, spiritual direction, and healing. Dolores had a gift. None could ignore that this simple spiritual guide was blessed. I was an adolescent at the time, young enough to have a beginner's mind and old enough to lack solid direction. It was a perfect opportunity to capture added energy for the intention of priests everywhere. Dolores was guided by her relationship with Mary. I was never quite sure what that was, but I knew that when she spoke, I should listen and follow. There was something much bigger than I at stake, and I did not need to know any more than that. Now, I am not one who typically accepts unreservedly, then acts accordingly, but during these years it seemed perfectly natural. Prayer was solicited with earnest from anyone and everyone who would listen. Groups formed to pray for priests and hundreds of prayer cards printed and distributed of St. John Vianney, with a prayer for priests on the back. Hence, this work began. It was 1966. The climate in the church was quite a bit different then, but it is said that, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and priesthood is no exception. The call to serve the Lord in sincerity and truth, Joshua 24:14, bears many of the same sorrows and joy in any age, and I pray with generous use of scripture, literature, and the mothers and fathers of the Church, lay, religious, and ordained alike, you will
Sample complete. Ready to continue?